If you're studying the Kennedy murder and you're trying to resolve what happened, this is where you want to end up, because this is the crime scene in essence. You know, we always hear on television, the crime scene, the crime scene, crime scene investigators. If you're going to solve the Kennedy crime, you've got to get here. Why? Because the crime occurred on this street. These buildings, this landscaping, these concrete embellishments, all meld together in what became the scene of the crime of the 20th century. What's my motivation to be here? Why am I here? Because the people who constructed and carried out this public execution of John F. Kennedy got away with it. Let's figure out who's crazy and who's not. The official explanation is that all the shooting came from behind the president. Now, we see in Abraham Zapruder's home movie, we see the entire shooting sequence, which ends right here with a bullet taking the president's head off. But the shooting started farther up the street. There's another X 42 yards east of us. That's where the shooting began, between the president receiving the throat shot and the moment of the headshot. The difference in time between those two moments is 5.9 seconds. But remember this, in that 5.9 seconds, Texas Governor John Connally, riding right in front of the president, receives 3 separate gunshot wounds. Think about it. It's ugly. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to accept it. Eventually, Kennedy receives 3 separate gunshot wounds within this 5.9 seconds. You don't have to be a mathematician to add that up. That's 6 wounds. This happens at 12:30 Central Standard Time. At 12:38, 8 minutes later, the president is carried into Trauma Room 1 in the emergency department at Parkland. And surgeons are flying into that room. Now remember, the Parkland doctors, they don't know anything about this. They're identifying their patient's wounds. If the Parkland doctors are correct in their initial assessment of this wound, if the Parkland doctors are correct that this is an entrance wound, where is the president when he receives that throat wound? In Zapruder's movie, we all see him grab his throat. So we know where that happened. We know where he was when he grabs his throat. How do they know it's an entrance wound? Because we're not dealing in mythology or fantasies here. These are trauma surgeons, and we're going to give them credit for knowing the difference between an entrance wound and an exit wound. Those Parkland doctors, they identify a cavity, a defect in the right rear of the president's skull that they described as the size of a human fist. If the president's right rear skull has a huge defect back here, where did that bullet come from? I don't have time to listen to people say, well, maybe, I don't know. We do know. If the back right of his skull has been blasted out, that bullet came from in front of the president. For a person to deny that is to deny reality. If someone today believes that Oswald, acting alone, did all this, that person is insulting my intelligence, and they're insulting their own intelligence.